Got Christmas.
I know.
Yeah.
I was up in the dollar store.
Yeah,
They was real confused.
Cool. They're like, what the fuck? I feel like it's Thanksgiving.
Got like 3 random ass things. Like, lazy ass motherfucker. Hey, welcome to another episode of Nina Talks. I'm your host, Darius, and of course, Akita isn't here, but I'm joined with my lovely guest, Câmi, today.
What's up?
We're going to get into our episode shortly, but before that, we want to include a little short. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to be nigging up one of your favorite Christmas stories. Catch y'all soon. Hi, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Nina Production Storytime. I hope you've had a great holiday. And we're going to get into the story called How the Niggas Saved Christmas from the Chronicles of Nina. Enjoy. Christmas in the Louisville. It holds every Lou's heart. Mansions of lights, down the loop, or near the park. A hallmark you can write to see a Lou come to life. Better yet, I suggest a date to see the frozen lights. Remember, every Lou down in the Louisville loved Christmas a lot. But 2 niggas who lived just south, they did not. Them niggas hated Christmas, the whole damn season. Don't ask why, nigga logic is the reason. It could be, perhaps, because niggas stay up all night to cop the new J's before resellers night. But I think the most likely reason of all is plugs stop delivering as the snow falls. But for whatever reason, be niggas weed or their shoes, niggas be posted on Christmas, straight hating the lose. Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you really enjoyed that story. I'm happy to announce that we have our guest Câmi here today.
Hey.
Câmi's a good friend of mine. Really like one of my first like St. Louis exclusive friends. I say that because I knew a few people when I was at WashU.
Damn, that's
But
touching.
like I met Câmi off of a whim. You posted out on Twitter, hey, let's have a bonfire.
Oh, that is how I met you.
That's how we met.
Wow.
So-
Oh my God, I didn't even realize. I thought Smoke City stuff. That's so funny. That's how
literally
I met
how we met.
you.
We came over to Câmi's house, sat around the bonfire, me and Summer, and drunk hot chocolate and just like talked about
God.
New Orleans and random shit.
Yeah. Oh my God. I remember that night so clearly. I forgot. And yeah, I didn't know, because we'd only seen each other via Twitter. So even when you showed up, I'm like, this might not be them. This might just be 2 random individuals who came to my house to roast marshmallows. But it turned out all right.
So that's a PSA, if you want to interact with somebody off of Twitter, just go to a bonfire. But yeah, Câmi, so I want you to take some time to introduce yourself, tell people what you do.
Okay, cool. I could do that. So I do a lot right now.
Okay.
For the last 4 years or so, I've worked for Red Bull North America in the culture world. But filmmaking, documentary, photography, things of that nature are definitely my passion.
Yeah.
So as time has gone on, I definitely felt the call to put my all towards that work and the community work that comes with it.
Yeah.
So now, I'm a freelance photographer, videographer, as well as doing marketing consulting and things like that, which pays the bills, which is nice. I'm a St. Louis native. I go between here, Chicago, and Miami, which is where my girlfriend lives. And I'm glad to be home and like spending more time, being able to build with the community and stuff like that. So I guess that's kind of everything in a nutshell.
Man, no, I'm happy that we could grab you while you were in town for a bit.
Me too.
I remember actually one of the probably most engrossed series I've been in, which has been your Smoke City series. Mm-hmm. Luckily, me and Summer were actually able to sit down and have a really cool conversation with you for one of them. But tell us a bit about how not only like let's start off with Smoke City. How did Smoke City kind of come about and you end up on this journey to creating that?
Yeah, I spent some time today, even on the car ride here, just kind of reminiscing about everything. And the Smoke City series and developing it is really, I credit that for so much of my emotional growth in so many ways because, I'm from Florissant, so Florissant, Ferguson area. And like a lot of St. Louisans, when Mike Brown was killed by, Darren Wilson, my entire world was turned upside down, just like everyone was in St. Louis. So for me, I was a senior in college, so that happened. The city popped off in the summer, and then I went back to school in New Orleans. where I went to Loyola, right? Yeah, no, we got the New Orleans connection. So, but when I came back, I graduated, right? Damn it. When I came back to St. Louis after I graduated, I was like, all right, cool, I'm here, I'm ready to do the work, I'm ready to have these conversations, and I kept interacting with, I'll just say people who were like, oh yeah, you know, the smoke is cleared, everything's good now. We got all that madness out the way. Good thing everything's calmed down, right? No more fires. Like... Yeah, and I'm like, are we looking at the same city? Are you experiencing? And obviously, I knew the answer was no, but it was mind-boggling in a sense, and like. But even Smoke City, the name came from the repeated phrase people kept saying to me was like, oh, the smoke is cleared. The smoke is cleared. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we're
like a grenade couple?
Yeah,
like, what?
What? I'm like, you know, people in North County, Black people in St. Louis have been saying for, I mean, decades, like, we're choking on this smoke and we're being oppressed. And I'm like, you know, I really realized this is going to happen again. Like, as soon as I came back, I remember thinking, this is going to happen again because, you know, you've left a boiling pot on the stove, and then when it boils over, you clean it up, but then you keep it on the stove.
It's still a boiling pot. You just cleaned up the mess that was around it.
Right, exactly. So it just seemed like, you know, what aren't you getting? And a lot of it was just like, I couldn't imagine, how can you be that disconnected? And I was like, well, because you're not leaving your neighborhoods. Like, you know, if a lot of people, if they're in Clayton, they'll stay there. If they're in Wentzville, they'll stay there. Florissant, they'll stay kind of in their areas. So that's where Smoke City came about. The name came from people saying the smoke was clear when it was literally everywhere and choking us.
Whole city,
right? Dog. Yeah, like the whole city was literally under smoke. I remember I came in for Thanksgiving break after they announced.
There's like no better way to describe it than that period.
Yeah, exactly. That was right when they had announced the verdict, that terrible verdict. And I remember flying in from New Orleans, and from my plane, I could actually see smoke rising from North County. So I'm like, if you think the smoke is cleared because that fires have technically been out, like, you're very misguided. So that's what started the process with Smoke City and saying, okay, I need to introduce people to the different areas of St. Louis, the various perspectives, and hopefully encourage them to go beyond the bubbles that they've kind of like secluded themselves to apparently their whole lives. So that's how that started.
How long were you a director and videographer before you started doing Smoke City? Like, what kind of challenges?
I became one as I made Smoke City.
Okay.
Yeah, I had done some stuff in college, but, you know, very much on like a school project kind of level. You know, going out, interviewing people, I was very much just kind of just going with it, and trial and error and losing footage and sound quality being bad. I just made so many mistakes on the way. And even with season 1, I'd worked with a lot of different videographers, and we worked together, and really like the iron sharpens iron kind of thing. So by the time, you know, I came along to season 2, which was the one that you were featured in, I felt much more confident in that role. But yeah, beforehand, I wasn't. I became one throughout that process.
Yeah.
So
that's really awesome.
Thanks.
So yeah, I'm gonna shift the conversation a bit to communication.
Okay.
Because I know that that was one thing that we've actually had conversations about in talking about interpersonal relationships, just like relationships between significant others,
right.
And even just probably even the process of learning how to work with people through Smoke City. What do you think one or two of the biggest communication lessons or challenges you've had to deal with are?
Wow, that's a really good question. And I feel like every time we've interacted, like you, me, Summer, every time we've interacted, like this ends up being the conversation.
Talk about talking.
Yeah, you know, which is good. I think, you know, one of the biggest lessons that have come from a challenge is that whatever, just to be a nerd, when you look at, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And if you go from the very bottom and see what things does someone just need survival-wise, and you'll see food, shelter. All right, do we have that if we're in a relationship? Whatever, cool. The very next one, the psychological needs, I think people kind of bypass that, and they forget that, like, feeling psychologically safe, feeling like you can speak to someone and you're not going to be attacked, or that your information, your heart, your openness, your vulnerability is safe with this person. If you don't have that, then it's going to lead to a lot of heartache, and a lot of trouble. And, you know, in different and various relationships in my life, that had been an issue where, you know, there's no foundation of safety, of emotional safety within each other. So I think that has to happen. That is number one. You can't build anything if you don't have that. So I think that's really the one biggest lesson for sure is
That's
the first.
cool.
Yeah.
I even think of that because I was trying to also put that in less of a kind of personal romantic relationship and more of just like a relationships with people that you interact with.
Right.
And even thinking of coworkers and stuff like that. Allowing a space of safety oftentimes just looks like listening to people.
It does, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think even with, and you know, if you take it from that too, like when filming Smoke City, pretty much it's just me with maybe Tyler Small or with Calvin T. Gray, and just sitting down, we have a camera, and we tell that person, like, okay, tell us about your experience in St. Louis. And for some people, that's heartbreaking information. There were a lot of interviews in which people cried. They talked about, you know, friends and family that they lost to this city. So it's like, how do you get from like, I'm a total stranger to pour out your heart to me? And it's that exact same thing. It has to be established before, like, hey, we're safe with each other. We've got each other, and establishing that foundation. So that's the case when you're talking to anyone at all. But if you expect openness from them, you have to provide that foundation of safety to them, you know?
Yeah. Have you experienced, well, I assume you have, but what's one time where you've kind of been faced with like a really big communication breakdown that you managed to, if you did, manage to salvage that or pull something out of that, you know?
You know, wow. Do you mean I'm just anything like
It
interpersonal wise
could be
or
deep and personal? It could just be like somebody at work was pissing you off one day and you found a really nice way to tell them to shut the fuck up.
Right. No, you know, the best way with work shit, the best thing is just the per my last email type emails. It says everything. It's like per my last email. So if you need to like bitch anyone out, you know, in a corporate way, that's the way you do it there.
Someone was just telling me that her mom had the exact same story today, so that's funny.
Really? Yeah, it's the go-to. It's like, you know, it's really a way of saying like, did you not hear anything I said before? But beyond that, I think, you know, again, I know there's things beyond romantic and interpersonal relationships, but I really think you can learn a lot from that. And I think for me, like in my even current relationship now, as far as communication breakdowns, I had to realize that like I was very closed off in a lot of ways. And I think sometimes we take old trauma into new things. And that could be even in a workplace. Let's say your old boss always yelled at you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And people walk around wounded and triggered, and every time somebody reminds them. Right, exactly. Exactly. It's like people
they're wondering, I just poked you.
Right. People are like, what's up? Like, what? Yeah, so it's like you really got to leave. And, you know, it's easy to say, oh, check that at the door. Like, that was your old job. That was your old relationship. That was your old whatever. But it's like...
history repeats itself.
It does. It really, it does. So it's just like, I think for me, the biggest thing is like being very conscious of what I'm bringing into an interaction, whether that's, again, romantic, work-wise, or whatever. Because if I'm like, if I already know I have the weight of the past on me and I'm bringing it into our interaction, like that person has no chance at getting through to me in any kind of way.
Especially if you're not aware.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think like above everything, self-awareness and making sure to know, like be conscious of what you're bringing, what kind of energy you're bringing into a space before you do it. And even being honest, if you're like, look, I have some old shit on me and it's weighing on me, at least letting them know. It's like, I don't know what to do with it or how to get rid of it.
You're gonna thug it out?
Exactly. It's like, look, at least you know what I mean? So I think...
I'm gonna try to not do too much, but you know, at once a week, I may just do a bit too much.
Exactly.
But
so
thug it out with me.
Right. Yeah. Self-awareness and just being cognizant about like what kind of energy you're bringing to a space is so important. Like in any kind of space, any kind of interaction. I think, you know.
Yeah. I moved with that exact mantra, and I like self-label it as like, be humble, sit down.
Yes. Exactly.
Like,
now, Kendra said it best.
Like you said, your honesty is key. Looking at yourself and recognizing what you bring into the table, and then just listening to people.
Right.
Like I'm a pretty hard-headed person.
Okay. What's your sign? Just curious.
Born in January 10th. Capricorn, I think.
Capricorn. Okay. All right. I don't know shit about Capricorn, so never mind.
I don't know shit about Capricorns either, man. Gang.
They say Taurus are stubborn, so I was like, "Are you family?"
Nah. Okay. So I'm not a Taurus. I'm not like hot-headed, but I'm very like hard-headed.
Got you.
And so I'll listen to people. all day, but I likely won't change my mind.
Fair enough.
But I will listen. I'll sit there and like I'll actually like process what people say.
Right.
And I just feel like it's okay. People feel some type of way about disagreements, or people feel some type of way when you're not on the same page.
Right.
But I'm like, as long as we both know where we coming from, we could just be like, all right, we not on the same page, but like, trying to smoke a joint, like.
Right, exactly. I think if you can like respect the person enough to value the perspective that they're coming from, and each person can feel heard and understood, then from there it's like, all right, cool. You can agree to disagree. You can't agree to disagree when like there's no respect. You know what I mean? So as long as that's there, yeah, whatever. Do what you gotta do.
So now that you're out here like living a good life, you know, communication on 10, you know, videography full time, I want to hear about, you know, how's the travel experience has been? I know you had an opportunity to see a lot.
Yeah.
You've been to what was it, Antarctica?
No, I was in Iceland, bro.
Iceland.
Yeah,
Okay, I was like, snow like shit, bro.
It was some cold shit, yeah. You know, whatever. It was some cold northern shit.
My local ass. And you were in Antarctica with the penguins?
No, people go to Antarctica. Like, people do that. Like, they're out here. I'm working up to it. You know what I mean? So I did Chicago. I'm like, all right, I can do Chicago. Then I did Iceland. I'm like, all right, I can do that. Maybe we can all go to Antarctica on some, like, I don't know, like, group
FaceTime.
shit. Yeah, exactly. But no, I went to Iceland with my family last Christmas, which was beautiful. It was for my mom's 50th birthday / Christmas. Yeah. She's always wanted to see the Northern Lights, so we went out there and did not see the Northern Lights. It was too cloudy, but we did a lot of other shit.
Life comes at you so fast.
It's so funny, kind of. I'm like,
aren't those things just always on?
I'm like, it was too cloudy, and like my grandparents were there. My sister who lives in LA, myself, my dad, my mom, like got all these black people in Iceland.
Mama Thomas, I'm sorry.
Right, I know. We had a time of our life, and it was amazing. But I'm like, yeah, you know, we were definitely the brownest things in that entire on that island, but. Yeah, no, that was just like a family experience. Got to see waterfalls. We climbed up a glacier together. A glacier that very well might not be there in like, I mean, I want to say even 50 years, but very realistically, I don't know, 5 years. I don't know. So that was really surreal in a sense of like really seeing a place and like, yeah, acknowledging that not everything's permanent. I think we get used to being able to keep everything in pictures and everything's recorded. But I'm like, some stuff really won't be there. Like things are ever changing.
Things that you a fucking glacier.
Yeah.
Miles big. Like,
yeah, that hole was huge.
Melting.
Yeah, no, it's
we want to do this podcast forever, but you know, the global warming keep going. We got like 20-something years on this bitch. Like,
yeah, you know, you're on the second floor though. You know what I mean? Like if flood
27 years
rising,
in this bitch, bro.
Right,
We got extra two up here.
The cameras can stay dry. But yeah, no, Iceland with the family. I filmed a documentary in Tijuana, Mexico, which was really cool.
So
yeah.
I actually don't. I've seen a lot of it, but I'm not super like in tune into like the backstory of that documentary. I
haven't really told like.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah, so you know, pretty much. I don't give a shit. So pretty much, we went down there and we follow the story of these two dancers. They're really great. They're like kind of like two prodigies within like the dance scene there, and they're both like 18 or 19 now, but. Their dream, the both of them, was to like study in the U.S. and kind of like continue their dance career in that way. But around the time that they were going to do all that, you know, we had some administrative changes that barred them from being able to even like look towards the United States pretty much. Yeah, so a lot of the stories about that, about their career, about what it's like. It's been cool stuff.
Administrative changes.
Yeah, no, Cheeto Head came into office and, you know, a lot of it was like war against people coming in from Mexico, and it just made things so much harder. And, you know, and that's not what defines them though either. It's like, you know, living in Tijuana is more than just a border city. There's so much about, you know, it reminded me of St. Louis in some ways. Like, you know, so yeah, just following the story about immigration in general, and even living in Tijuana, like there's people coming up from Guatemala, from, you know, Honduras, and like, you know, who stay there too because they were going into the United States. So they have their own immigration kind of situation going on too. So yeah, that was really cool. And I went there.
How long were you down there?
We were there for I think about 10 days. And Nayara Williams came with me too. So she was doing some B-Cam stuff. So yeah, it was good stuff. Good shit.
That's dope travel. We're also making our way down to Mexico for a cruise.
Cool.
More consumer.
Okay, yeah, nice. Where are you gonna go? Do you know?
Cozumel and Yucatan.
Nice.
But
cool.
heard that the Zika virus is
it popping again?
a thing. Not popping, but you know,
I'm like, I remember that was
it's not
a thing.
popping again. It was a thing. Someone gonna kill me for this shit. But I'm like, you say it once, man. I'm like, nah, bro. I ain't getting bit by
Wait.
those Zika mosquitoes, bro. Fuck that.
I'm super drove for asking. Like that swine flu. That's all different stuff, right?
I think so. I don't know
right.
shit about shit, man.
I don't either.
All I know is they was like, they got mosquitoes in Mexico. Motherfuckers bite you, you get Zika.
Look.
And it's a L.
I didn't wear like a drop of bug spray or mosquito spray when I was there, and like, you know, I'm alive. But maybe
I'm usually cool. Like I'm not the one to get bit.
All right, we'll get an update afterwards. We'll have like an update episode or something. But yeah, so Mexico, and then I went to Portugal, Paris, and London with my girl about, I guess, 2 months ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we did a photo project together in Paris with like the Pigalle basketball court. So the one that's like painted all cool and stuff. So we did a project out there, which was cool. And then just kind of like hung out and like
traveled, saw those places.
Yeah, it was cool. Once you're out there, it's mad cheap. Especially I've been living in Chicago, so I'm like, everything feels cheaper.
I need to get my behind out the U.S. for a little bit. I really want to go on one hearty kind of like historical travel spree. Yeah. Maybe not necessarily somewhere in like Europe, but I do want to just kind of like get out and like live in another part of the world.
Fuck
for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think that there's so many kind of like habits and expectations that exist in America that are just so normalized. And the more I kind of talk to friends that spend time out of the country, they're just like, you just start to think about things a bit differently. Yeah. You kind of like expect the world to work differently when you realize that like the U.S. isn't necessarily the only lens of.
Definitely. And like real talk, you can also feel safer places. Like that's the main thing for me.
I wholeheartly believe that.
Yeah, because I'm like, it's not even with traveling, it's not even always on like some bougie shit, like, you know, to post on the gram. It's really like, even when I was in Portugal, at least my experience, like, you know, my blackness wasn't an issue. Like, even, you know, there was a couple situations, whatever, like, you know, looks or something every once in a while, but it wasn't if I'm in St. Louis,
you can't escape that feeling of your blackness being all over.
Exactly, it's constant, and
every
it's
time
also
a cop turned behind me, I'm sitting here looking at my rear view for as long as he behind me, like.
Exactly, and that's the thing. I'm like, when I'm in the U.S., someone's racism could get me killed. You know what I mean? So it's a difference. I'm like, I don't care if you look at me funny and you're like, you're not Beyonce. Like, I don't give a shit about that. Like, but
I still feel safe.
Exactly.
Like, it goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
I'm like, I don't think that you're gonna find me suspicious enough to call the police and get like me or one of my people killed. You know what I mean? So I'm like, even in that aspect, especially when it comes to like black men, I'm just like, yo, there's places you can go where you won't feel like this. You know what I mean? So, and once you get a taste of it, you're like, yo, like, you know. So anyway, traveling stuff's been cool, especially being able to like travel, do work, be black and do it. Like, it's just all, it's been cool. I've liked it, but it's also good to be home. Like, St. Louis is really, in a lot of different ways, it's one of the best places in the world to me. So it's good to be back, you know.
What are some projects you have lined up in the future for the city or around the city? You know?
Yeah, so I'm turning the Smoke City series into like a full-length documentary. Yeah, so I'll be working.
Baby meme?
Yes, exactly. So I'm still working on that. Like, we're bringing in different like funding and stuff for that. So that'll probably, you know, kick off filming. I was gonna kick it off this December, but
we're gonna put a young link in the description.
Gang. Yes, it's like hella cold now though, so I'm gonna wait for it to get warmer so I can be outside and film. Yeah, I'm like, look, I'm not. Yeah, my hands are gonna be cold. So
that's Frost City.
Yeah, and then I'm working on this documentary where pretty much like a lot of people, I grew up in the church, and I grew up with a girl who was exactly my age. Pretty much we had the same family structure, yada, yada. Pretty much twins on paper. And we're about the same age, but our lives went like hella different directions. She leaned very much into religion and into the church, and that very much structured her life. And I started to lean a little bit outwards, and then that exploration has structured a lot of mine. So I'm doing... me and my team are doing like a story, just kind of showing
like a juxtaposition.
Exactly. Yeah.
What Related to that split.
And it's related to the city though, because we went to church in Ferguson. That was the church I grew up in, was baptized in. So that'll be cool. And then also just interviewing people throughout the city and like how they relate to religion, if they relate to it, if, you know, spirituality, how that plays a part in their life and stuff like that. So those are kind of the things that I have.
Those are always like super interesting conversations, because I grew up in the church also, and the church was on, I feel like it had 3 layers to me.
Okay.
And like now I kind of like grab on to 2 of those and like kind of like wrestle with the 3rd one every now and then.
Word.
But the church was a really good place of community. At least the church I went to did it really well.
Right.
The church was a pretty good place for like figuring out like morals and stuff.
Yeah, I think so too.
Maybe like the roots, like the causes of like how to behave morally might be like a little shady, but like they pretty much get you doing like how to think about how to move throughout the world and interact with people.
Exactly.
And then the last layer, obviously, like I went to college and realized that like Christianity and black people, like whew.
Yeah,
that's a hard one.
I still don't know where I'm at with that. That's like a whole nother. I have to do some reading, pray.
But those first 2 are strong for me.
Exactly. I can see that. Yeah, I think me too. I really, when I think, sometimes I used to think like, oh, I'm so far away from it. Like nothing about my upbringing in the church do I still have. And
I'd run back to the church. Like I'd be me, of course, but I'd also love to give back and be in a position where like I can give back to that community that the church is like feeding to. Because I even remember growing up doing just kind of like retreats, and like we would go out to different places around like the U.S. and they'd have us for like a week, whole bunch of kids. I got older, became like a chaperone.
Nice.
And also then was able to like give back to the kids, be myself, and like of course like pray over them and all that stuff, but mainly just like I'm gonna talk to y'all.
Right.
Like, I got y'all best interest in mind. I'm gonna talk to y'all.
That's what people need, like, and there's no harm with that. So yeah, like the church for me it manifested for me like in a different way, and who I am today, it does have a lot to do with the church, right? For sure, but it is different than like a traditional following, everything, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think even for me, it'll be interesting to kind of dive into it and really dissect like what ways is that still a part of me, what ways is it not, and then for the people, other millennials like who have a similar experience, kind of like seeing how much of this is still in you, you know what I mean? So. But yeah, no, it's complex for sure, but it's anything that makes you a decent person, like no matter what the religion or something is like not a bad thing,
We can't hate too much because we ain't got that many decent people out here these days.
Yeah, that's real, yeah. Exactly. I'm like, whatever makes you like just a chill individual who's not judging folks and you're, contributing to society, like, do what you do.
That's awesome. Well, I guess we will finish it off with the album of the week.
Album of the week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you had your chance to think of one?
I
can start it off.
Yeah, start it off. I have a couple that I'm like ping-ponging between, so I'll let you start it off.
All right. In honor of my comrade that is not here, I will give the album of the week to this album that Akita and Jerry put together called Groovy Blues.
Nice.
I got to listen to them put that thing together, man. And so even just hearing the final product, them boys jiggy. So Big Worm. I also like the feature Peace with Michael and Jack that they had.
Nice.
That track was also like really dope. So Groovy Blues, Jerry and Nikita, check it out. Like I give that album like top tier A rating.
Hell yeah. No, that's a hell of a combination of people on one album. Like, no, that's like straight St. Louis heat, like times 10. No, that's a tough one to follow. I think even to give a double plug though to your comrade, I think my album of the week would be the
double plug.
Right?
Double plug.
The Nowhere group, the collective album that they just dropped, that group project. So it was Zato. Teacup, Zato, and Sir ADC.
Yeah.
So talented. And I do a lot of work with Sir ADC, like, and even just his solo work, I do a lot with it, but the three of them coming together, like, and all the
And
flavors
they're
that they bring
meticulous
in.
about what they do too.
They are. They're really, really hard workers, and you
Yeah.
can hear it. Like, you can hear it in the album and the production and the bars. Like, everything is it's wonderful. So that's 100% my album of the week. Definitely.
Two great picks. Go listen to them.
Yes.
And again, thank you guys for tuning in to an episode of Nina Talks. Thank you, Câmi, for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
I love this conversation. Again, guys, you can check us out on www.nina-productions.com. On there, you can get merchandise. You can see past episodes. And you can also check out Gas and Goku, which will be coming up soon. So make sure you sign up for the newsletter. Where can people find you on social?
So let's see, Twitter and Instagram, those are probably like my babies. So just Câmi Cruz Thomas,
Okay.
or at Câmi Cruz Thomas on those.
Okay.
And then all my stuff online is at CamiThomasCreative.com.
Okay, cool. And I'm going to also throw all that in the description.
Cool, good stuff.
Man. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Adios.
Dope.
Cool.